Familiarity will be the one reason why Houston Texans quarterback CJ Stroud will thrive in Nick Caley's system.
That would be Sarge.
Yes, I do have something, CJ. Welcome to the Texans Tailgate Talk podcast. I'm your seasoned credential media member and Texans insider, Big Sarge. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with a Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you subscribe to the Texans Tailgate Talk YouTube channel, Texans Tailgate Talk, all one word. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Because you know we do everything for the gram. And make sure you are following www.bigsarge.com. Articles are coming soon. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Texans Tailgate Talk podcast. Listen, I want you all to make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast from, but really make sure that you're following me on the YouTube channel at Texans Tailgate Talk, all one word. Follow me on that because that's where we're going to start doing the exclusive stuff. That's where we're going to have the Texans Happy Hour. I will drop all of the exclusive content, and we'll do the Texans Happy Hours live from the Texans Tailgate Talk YouTube channel. So make sure that you are subscribed to that. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the start of regular season. And if I do that, hey, gonna be a party. Wait, having a good time? I don't know. That's one of my favorite Luther songs. Once again, tuned to the Texans Tailgate Talk podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. All right, so I said that familiarity will help Stroud adapt to a new offensive system. Now, you know, in the offseason, the Houston Texans let go of former offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick and hired tight ends coach from the Los Angeles Rams, Nick Caley, as their new offensive coordinator. And if you go over to the Texans Tailgate Talk YouTube channel, you'll see where I did a Texans Happy Hour when I talked about how his being a former tight ends coach with, you know, New England and with the Los Angeles Rams, him being there coaching an all-pro tight end like Rob Gronkowski, and you know, helping Tyler Higbee, of course, that he should be able to help Jake Moreland in that tight end room. Jake Moreland is a tight ends coach for the Houston Texans. He should be able to help him in that room. But we know that, you know, everybody has an opinion on what offense coordinator Nick Caley is going to do. They think that, you know, with his time in New England and his time in Los Angeles, especially with the brilliant mind like a Sean McVay, you would think that he's going to step right in and be able to lead this offense into new heights, especially with a third-year quarterback like CJ Stroud. And, you know, I've said this on numerous occasions. I will judge a quarterback after year 3. After year 3, I would judge a starting quarterback because year 1, they're a rookie. Nobody really knows exactly what's going on, right? Nobody really knows exactly what's going on. So they're brand new and they get away with a lot of stuff. Year 2, defensive coordinators have film. They have tendencies. They have what they do good, what they do bad on film. And so now they're able to devise a defensive scheme in order to stop that quarterback. And so you have the newness in year 1. You have what they call the sophomore slump, or just defensive coordinators adapting their defensive plans to the quarterback in year 2. And then year 3, the quarterback should be able to put year 1 and year 2 together. And after year 3, now you should be able to tell what a starting quarterback should be if everything is, of course, around him. You know, if everything is competent around him. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't even have to be very good. It just has to be good, has to be competent. And you got to have a good offensive coordinator and with some weapons as well. And what general manager Nick Caley went out and done and got him some more weapons through the draft by him drafting 2 wide receivers in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. And we've talked about them before. So as CJ goes into his 3rd year in the NFL, the one thing that we're going to be looking at, especially I will be looking at starting in training camp, and I will be out there. Big Sarge will be, live and on the scene to give you up to the minute updates about what I see in training camp. I want to see how CJ is going to adapt to this new offensive system, because it's not rare. It's not rare that a quarterback going into his 3rd year could be going on his 2nd offensive coordinator. Because if you he almost lost his offensive coordinator after year 1. Bobby Sloak was getting some head coaching considerations, and so CJ would have been in another system in year 2. But now he's going into year 3 of his career, and he's going into a new offensive system. The good thing about it is year 3, so he does know how to prepare now. He had to learn coming into his rookie season. Year 2, he kind of got familiar and got familiar with what he was able to do in that offense. So let's just say it like this: what he was allowed to do. And you all know that I've talked about this a lot. I even asked Bobby Slowick, hey man, can CJ audible or what's going on? And then come to find out that the plays were taking too long to get into the huddle, just like we've heard that before, right? I've said this before. You've heard that before, right? Where, Kyle Shanahan and people that fall under the Kyle Shanahan tree have a tendency to call long plays. Remember what Matt Ryan said about the Super Bowl comeback by the New England Patriots, that, hey man, it got to a point where the plays were getting too long. I couldn't audible out. That was something that happened that was starting to happen to CJ in year 2. And so year 3, him going into this new offensive system, him going into a new concept that he has to learn, I don't think it's going to be hard for CJ. And one of the reasons why I don't think it's going to be hard for CJ is because there's one person on that Houston Texans staff. There's one person on that Houston Texans staff that CJ is.
I've known Gerard since I was 16. I was in the Elite 11 with him, and he was my quarterback coach there. And one thing, man, I can say about Gerard, man, is like, when you talk about someone who knows how to play the position of quarterback and knows how to relay something, but also just a great person, man, a guy who loves football, he loves Houston, he loves Texas, he loves his family, he's a great family man. And somebody who's taught me just a tremendous amount of information. But on top of that, man, put a lot of confidence into me as well. Like when I was 16 at Elite 11, we did like this little like circle group. It was like all the quarterbacks in my group. And Gerard's one thing for me was like, be confident. Because at that time, like I wasn't really the highest recruit. I wasn't who I will become. You know what I'm saying? And I always knew that it would be a possibility, but I didn't hear it out like those type of the Gerard I looked up to. Like he played at Texas A&M, I knew that, and stuff like that. And when he was like, "Man, you need to be more confident," like, and that was just like it changed my life. You know what I'm saying? And from there, like fast forward, I'm here with him my rookie year. It's been just a blessing to work with him, and
That was Houston Texans quarterback CJ Stroud. This was after his rookie year in the league, talking about how much Gerard Johnson has meant to his life and how important it was to have a person like Gerard Johnson in the room, helping him get adapted to playing in the NFL. And so one of the things that the Houston Texans made sure that they did once they got rid of Bobby Slowick was to retain Gerard Johnson, because they knew that CJ was going to need somebody in that room that was going to be able to help him out a lot. And, they lost veteran quarterback Case Keenum, a person who was very instrumental in helping CJ get acclimated into the NFL. But listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I like the fact that Gerard Johnson is still with the Houston Texans, and they didn't lose him, because going into this season, CJ is going to probably, have some bumps along the way. CJ is going to have some bumps along the way to learn, what it is to play in a new offensive system. And him and Nick Caley are going to be doing this thing together. It'll be the first time that Nick Caley is calling plays, and it'll be the first time that CJ is hearing a new voice, and a new voice in his helmet from going into year 3. So I like the fact that Gerard Johnson, and you get some familiarity, you get some comfortability with him, and you get somebody in there that knows both sides. Because, hey, look, I believe that Gerard Johnson is on his way to becoming an offensive coordinator. I'm going to be honest with you, I thought that he would have been the next Texans offensive coordinator. If you're going to get rid of Bobby Slowick, right? If you're going to get rid of Bobby Slowick and you're going to bring in a first-time play caller, I thought that, hey, why not go ahead and bring in Gerard? Gerard's familiar with everybody on the Houston Texans coaching staff. He's familiar with the offense. You let him use, put together his own offense, his own offensive scheme, and you go from there. He has familiarity, what we just heard with CJ. So I thought, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought, and I was rooting for Gerard Johnson to be the next Houston Texans offensive coordinator. I mean, if you're going to give first-time play callers an opportunity, why not give it to Gerard? But maybe Nick and D'Amico saw that maybe Gerard wasn't ready. Maybe they saw that that Nick Caley was more ready than Gerard Johnson. And you got to look at it like this. I'm going to be honest with you, right? So sometimes it's all about who you know. Sometimes it's just all about who you know. Nick Caserio came from the Patriots. Where did Nick Caley start? The Patriots. Nick Caley went to John Carroll University. Where did Nick Caserio go to school at? John Carroll. Cole Popovich used to be Cole Popovich, the offensive line coach for the Houston Texans, was a coach where? New England. You got some other people from New England on the staff. Sometimes it's all about who you know. And I'm going to be honest with you. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I ain't never got a job because of who I knew. Hey, look, there's been plenty of times I've asked my partners back in the day, hey, y'all hiring? Yeah, bro, I can get you on. Cool. One of the first jobs I ever had at Coca-Cola is because I knew the person who was up there. I knew the person who was running the plant. And I said, went to church with him. Hey, can you give me a job? He said, are you ready to work? I'm ready to work. And I got a job. So I'm not mad at Nick Caley for getting a job that way. And I'm also not mad at Nick Caserio or D'Amico Ryans looking at him and saying, and I said this on the Texans happy hour. I mean, Nick Caley has been around one of the smartest men in football. One of the smartest men in football is Sean McVay, one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the game, who's ever coached the game, in Sean McVay. And I'm pretty sure he learned some things. I'm pretty sure that some of that offense is going to look like the Sean McVay system. When the Rams came here to do a joint practice with the Texans before playing them in a preseason game, there was nothing but praises from CJ Stroud towards Matt Stafford and Sean McVay. And so I'm not mad at that. That's, if you're going to find somebody. And also, I mean, he was around Josh McDaniels too. So you get somebody that's been around, some of these brilliant offensive minds. The only Gerard Johnson has been the last 2 years, he's been around a coach who ended up getting fired. So I get it. I understand maybe that Gerard needs to get his feet wet just a little bit more. Maybe Nick Caley is going to give him some more responsibilities coming into the season. And if he does give him more responsibilities coming into the season, maybe he's helping him to be able to have his chance at being an offensive coordinator one day. But I'm pretty sure, because Nick Caley seems like a very smart man. I know that D'Amico and Nick, they're very smart. I'm pretty sure they said, hey, look, we need CJ to be up to speed by the time training camp starts. And CJ is a very, very, very astute student of the football. I remember last season talking to Bobby Slowick. I remember talking to D'Amico Ryans. I remember talking to some other players, and they was like, yo, CJ studies like no other. They said we're all in the group chat, and sometimes it'd be like 12:30, and CJ be trying to send us plays or send us things that he's seen on film. We had to be like, hey, bro, go to bed. Go to sleep, CJ. Go to sleep. D'Amico praises him all the time about how he's very, very, very astute. And so I'm pretty sure Nick Caserio told Nick Caley, hey, look, we need CJ to be up to speed and up running and going. And in order to do that, you're going to have to make sure that Gerard has him ready for whatever it is you're going to do as far as the offense is concerned. CJ has that familiar voice in the room. CJ has that person in the room who he knows, a person that he knows going to shoot it to him straight. Because Gerard, hey, look, let me tell y'all something about Gerard. I know that you all don't get an opportunity to talk, see Gerard Johnson talk a lot. Gerard's a straight shooter. CJ, it's one of the things that CJ would tell you. Gerard shoots it straight. He is not going to sugarcoat it for nobody. Nobody. He's going to let you know exactly how he feels. And that's exactly what a quarterback like CJ Stroud needs, because he needs to know that you're not just tiptoeing around him because he's CJ Stroud. Hey, that's cool, but I need to know what you're seeing, and I need to know how you're going to help me. Now, during the NFL Combine, I got an opportunity to speak. With head coach D'Amico Ryans before he went to the podium, and I asked him. I said, D'Amico, when you're looking at CJ coming into another offensive scheme, when you're looking at him coming into a brand new offensive scheme, going into his third year, do you think there's going to be some bumps in the road? How do you think he's going to adapt? And this is what he told me.
A lot gets said about different systems this year, how many systems guys have been under. As players, as coaches, you're always adapting, evolving. So it's a chance to learn something new that doesn't stifle your growth just because you're learning something new. It could be the opportunity for players to take a huge jump. Right, so just because it's a new system, I don't see that as a bad thing. Yeah, you want consistency, but guys can take a huge jump. Guys can make improvements. It's just about being locked in, attentive to the details, communication flowing properly amongst everyone, and I think it can help us.
And that's the one thing, everything that Gerard offers. That's all the things that Gerard offers is exactly what D'Amico just said. The communication has to be flowing properly. Everything has to be, on point. We have to make sure that everything is on point and that everything is relayed to CJ in a manner where we can set him up for success. And that starts with Nick Caley, and that starts with Gerard Johnson. So, I have no problem. I don't think that CJ is going to have an issue or a problem. And I like what they did in the draft by going out and getting some wide receivers. And one of the things that I said before the draft is, listen, I know that there are some deficiencies on the offensive line. There is some deficiencies on the offensive line. But if you could devise a system to get the ball out of CJ's hands quicker, I said that on KPRC2 on Sports Sunday when I was with Randy McElvoy and Aaron Wilson, get the ball out of his hands. Get the ball out of his hands quick enough, you don't have to worry about the offensive line blocking for that amount of time. then you could beat those delayed blitzes. Then you could beat those line stunts that may take a little bit longer. But when you look at what he has in Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, and Jalen Noel, a couple of those players, if Nick Caley and Ben McDaniels are on the same page with CJ, that offense should flow, and then that should open it up for Joe Mixon. But all that's going to start in training camp. All that's going to start with the way, and what I mean by start in training camp, that's when they're going to be able to get on the field and do it. Because, coming up here, we're going to have OTAs, and then we're going to have mandatory minicamp, and they won't do a lot. It'll be some implementing, but it won't be getting into full detail like they're going to do once training camp starts. So once training camp starts, then that's when you're going to see, all right, now it's time. And now you'll be able to see all the offseason work that CJ put in and all the offseason work that he's done with Gerard, the communication aspect of communicating with Gerard throughout the offseason. Okay, look, we've hired the new offense coordinator. This is the offense that he wants to run. This is what he wants to do. All right, CJ, let's implement that and put it into play. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't wait. I think that there's a lot of people that are doubting CJ right now. There's a lot of people that don't believe that he can bounce back from, I don't want to say it was a bad season, but what CJ went through last year was a combination of a lot of things, right? A lot of people that I talked to inside of the building, CJ just wasn't having fun. He wasn't having fun like he was in year one. Year two was not as fun for CJ as it was in year one. And a lot of that had to do with offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. A lot of people were saying, why are you putting so much, why are you blaming Bobby Slowick so much? It's because of the conversations that I had with other people inside of the building that were saying that how much pressure Bobby was putting on CJ to make sure that everything was going according to his plan, right? According to Slowick's plan, not according to what CJ was good at. And don't get me wrong, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Bobby Slowick is a very good guy. And I think that given the opportunity and a chance to be an offensive coordinator again, he'll learn from the mistakes that he made in year two when he was offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. I believe that he will be one of those guys that will be able to bounce back and say, because Bobby's very smart. Bobby's very smart. And so I think he will. But there was just too much. I think that for as much as people say that CJ got overwhelmed by the success, I think that Bobby did as well. And you can start to see that. One of the things that, well, I mean, one thing that stood out to me the most is when we were in Ohio, when the Texans was practicing at Nick Casario's old high school before they went and played their preseason game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was right after the Hall of Fame game. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching practice. And as I'm watching practice, right, as I'm watching them practice, some things that I had seen while they were in Houston just started to run through my mind. And I'm saying to myself, why is CJ holding the ball so long? Why is CJ holding the ball? That's not something that CJ does. And so I asked Bobby, I'm going to find that video and I'm going to put that out on my social media. But I asked Bobby, hey, man, why does it seem like CJ's holding the ball longer than normal? And Bobby was like, well, we're trying to teach him to go through his progressions and not just throw to the first, second, or third option, but get to the fourth option as well. And I'm saying to myself, CJ don't need to learn how to go through progressions. CJ knows how to go through progressions. And what you're doing now is you're setting him back. And now with the way that your long developing plays or the long developing plays, and then with the lack of great offensive line plays, and now you've built in a habit into him on holding on to the ball too long because you want him to go through these different progressions. And you want him to go through these different progressions because y'all are calling these long developing pass routes. Go back and look. They were not getting the ball out of CJ's hands fast last season. before, but look, when Stephon Diggs went down, Nico went down, like they weren't getting the ball out of his hands as quickly as they could. Like that it just like they never played with tempo. It just seems like the Houston Texans never played up-tempo football. And then they got stagnant. And then as you get stagnant, now you got other players. And I'm not telling you something I heard. I'm telling you something I know. That's why you listen to the Texans Tailgate Talk podcast hosted by none other than Big Sarge, because this is where you get these type of things at. All right. After one of the away games last year, I went into the home team's locker room, right? Went into the home team's locker room, and I was having some conversations with some players inside of the locker room. And I said, how were y'all able to stifle that Texas offense? How were you able to slow CJ and that offense down? He's like, well, like we studied them on tape and we know their plays. And we also know Bobby Slowick's habits. So we got a really good defensive coordinator that can design and scheme things up to where we were pretty effective. We knew where the weaknesses was on the line. We knew where the weaknesses was in the down and distance. We were well prepared coming into this game, and that's why we beat them the way that we did, was because we already knew what was going on. And you cannot have that, right? You cannot have that. That's why I hope that what Nick Caley picked up from Sean McVay is the ability to keep the defense guessing. Because if you can't keep the defense guessing, then it's going to be year 2 of Bobby Slowick all over again. But they told me, hey, we knew exactly what they were going to do. They became too predictable. And we knew everything that they were going to do. They didn't change. Up to and including the cadences. Up to and including the formations. They said we were calling out their plays to the point to where their players was looking at us crazy. And I said, oh, wow. Yeah. So all I'm saying is that when CJ gets with Gerard and Nick Caley, I'm hoping that they're putting together something that's going to allow this young man to be successful, because they're very talented at the skill positions. At their skill positions, they're very talented. There's still a lot of questions on that offensive line. So you're going to have to use those skill positions to your advantage. You're going to have to use CJ. You're going to have to use the wide receivers. You're going to have to use the running back and Joe Mixon, and find a way to use your tight ends, because the uncertainty of what that offensive line is going to do is something that looms very large heading into training camp. Thank you for tuning in to the Texans Tailgate Talk podcast. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you are subscribed to the Texans Tailgate Talk YouTube channel, all one word, and to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from. And make sure you follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end, because you know we do everything for the gram. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, Big Sarge. I'm out.
Big Sarge.